All right, we are going to get started with Unit 5. So you should have the Unit 5 packet. And for today's video, we are actually going to be going a couple pages in to page 5. And we're going to be starting with Lesson 2. So find page 5, Lesson 5.2. And Unit 5 is all about quadratic equations. Quadratic means that we are going to have x squared somewhere in the equation. And if you look at all the examples, we have x squared. Okay. So this unit is going to be talking about strategies for how to solve quadratic equations. So, a couple reminders. Whenever solving for a variable, you must undo whatever is being done to the variable. So like when I have 3x plus 1 equals 13, I have to undo what's being done to the variable. So we do the opposite of addition, which is subtraction, right? I would subtract 1 from both sides. And then I would do the opposite of multiplication, which is to divide. And we get x equals 4. Okay, so we're going to do all of that, but we're adding one more thing. We have to figure out what the opposite of squaring a number is. And the opposite of squaring a number is to take the square root. Okay, and that's the key thing that you need to remember. To undo squaring something, we take the square root. So number one, this is like the most basic kind of equation, right? It says x squared equals 81. So how do I undo squaring something? Well, I take the square root. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. Okay? The square root of x squared is just x. They undo each other. So this is just going to be x. And the square root of 81, now this is very important. It's not just 9. It's also negative 9. So we write this little symbol here, plus or minus, because x could be 9 or negative 9, because 9 squared is 81, but also negative 9 squared is 81, right? Negative 9 times negative 9. So this is very important. Anytime you take the square root, your answer is going to have that plus or minus symbol that goes with it. Okay, let's try number 2. Same thing. To undo squaring something, we take the square root. The square root of something squared is just that thing, and the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. Okay, number 3. Again, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is just x. And maybe you remember this, but when we take the square root of a negative number, square root of a negative number is imaginary. Okay? So the square root of 64 is 8, which means the square root of negative 64, we still get that plus or minus, is going to be 8i. Okay? So that's something that you also need to kind of bring back to the front of your brain, that when we take the square root of a negative number, we're going to have I in our final answer. Okay. One thing I like to bring up to students when solving equations is that we do the opposite of PEMDAS. So what's the opposite of PEMDAS? The opposite of PEMDAS is SADMAP. Okay? So PEMDAS, PEMDAS, but backwards is SADMAP. And this is the order that we undo things. Okay? So when we're solving equations, we first will undo subtraction or addition. Second, we undo division or multiplication. And then next, we undo exponents. So here, we have an exponent that we need to undo, but we also have addition that we need to undo. So we're going to undo the addition first. So I'm going to subtract 44 from both sides. 188 minus 44 is 144. To undo squaring something, we take the square root. The square root of x squared is just x. The square root of 144 is plus or minus 12. Okay, let's try number 5. X squared minus 12 equals 37. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. 37 plus 12 is 49. To undo squaring something, I'm going to take the square root. Square root of x squared is just x. Square root of 49 is plus or minus 7. Okay, I would love for you to pause the video and try number 6 on your own. So pause the video and then check back to see how you did. Okay, you should have gotten x equals plus or minus 11. If you didn't, go ahead and pause the video and check the work and see what you missed. Okay, moving on. We're going to add another step here. So we have 3 times x squared, so we need to undo multiplication, we need to undo the exponents, and we need to undo addition. But if we follow SADMAP, the first thing we are going to undo is the addition. So that gives me, 48. Now I need to undo the multiplication. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3, which gives me x squared equals 16. And now I can undo the exponent. Take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals plus or minus 4. Okay. Let's try number 8. Going to add 9 to both sides. 5x squared equals 125. Now I'm going to divide by 5. X squared equals 25. Take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals plus or minus 5. Okay, same thing as before. Please pause the video and try number 9 on your own. When you're done, go ahead, restart the video, and see how you did. Okay, you should have gotten x equals plus or minus 6. If you didn't, pause the video, check back over my steps, and see if you can figure out where you went wrong. Now that we're done with the notes, you are going to work on the homework problems on page 6. You're going to do numbers 1 through 18, and you can skip number 17, okay? But you can give the rest of them a try, and we will go over whatever questions you have tomorrow, but I will be checking that you have both the homework and the notes completed. We'll see you then.